According to our state's Department of Management and Budget, the state of Minnesota is going to experience a shortfall of $4.6 billion. Local governments and the services they provide are going to be heavily impacted by this shortfall. One of the essential services that are going to be particularly hard hit is going to be the Rochester Public Library. Libraries are one of those things that we tend to take for granted until we need them. Like, for example, you're a student having to write a paper for, you're having to do some research. Or say your job just cut some of your hours and you can't really afford to go to the movies, so you go to the library to pick up your DVD. Or you're unemployed and you need to use the computers at the library to do some job searching. But now imagine you, the student, you, the cash-strapped person, you unemployed out of a job, going to the library only to find the doors locked. That's because the hours have been cut. That is the situation that our community could be facing. I grew up in poverty in an economically depressed neighborhood, and the public library was an oasis for me in a desert of despair. Not only did it open up doors of knowledge, but it also leveled the playing field. It didn't matter that I was poor or anyone was poor. Everyone was welcome at the library. And that's why today I support the public library by donating financially, by also donating books, and by now donating my time. So today we're going to learn about some of the issues, some of the challenges facing the library, and what we could do to help them. We are currently facing the greatest economic crisis since the Great Depression. States cannot fund essential services. The libraries get most of their funding from local government aid. That's also known as LGA. You'll hear me mention that a little bit. And because of that, they're getting really crunched at a time when services are in peak demand. As we see, libraries are in trouble. According to the American Library Association, and their position paper, Libraries in the Economy, in April of 2009, what's happening is libraries are having to reduce operating hours, they're cutting staff, and they're closing branches. Just as the time as there's countrywide increases in usage because of the free services that they offer. So from California to New Jersey to Idaho, we've seen these very dramatic increases in usage. The Boston Globe wrote about this in a great article called The Library, a Recession Sanctuary, in January. Just as all over the country has seen these increases, our own public library here in Rochester has seen them as well. We have had an increase from December of 2007 to December of 2008 of 18% in our own library. Even though we have that increase, cuts are inevitable, in the words of John Hunsiger, the communications director of the Rochester Public Library. And if we look at their funding sources, we can see why. They get 82% of their funding from the city, 15% from the county, 2% from fines and fees, and 1% from other. So that cut in government aid is going to really impact them. The city of Rochester, Minnesota, in this coming fiscal year is going to have a shortfall of $3 million. The following fiscal year is going to be $5 to $6 million. So those are significant numbers. Who is going to be impacted by some of this stuff, some of these cuts that happen at the library? Well, all of us are, but I would like to highlight just a couple of key groups. And first one is the unemployed. According to the Rochester Post-Bulletin in March of 2009, Olmsted County's unemployment rate for March was 6.7%. However, that is an increase of 4.1% in just 1 year's time. The unemployed use the library computers to view classifieds, to work at and send out their resume, and also to apply for jobs through the internet. Another thing is school-aged children. As Holly so eloquently told us about before, the district is facing, has done huge cuts, and the Rochester Public Library is going to have to kind of step in and fill those holes that have opened up, some of those gaps that have opened up from the budget cuts. A lot of the things that they offer a lot for school-age children, I'm just touching on a few. One of them is online tutoring services. Another is homework assistance through community volunteers. They have ACT and SAT study aids and prep aids for high schoolers. And also, it's a safe place for kids to go after school. You know, as generous looking at, sometimes kids need a safe place after school, and the library is a great place for kids to be. And finally, I'd like to talk about the underprivileged, the economically disadvantaged. Again, according to the American Library Association, families that make $15,000 a year are 2 to 3 times more likely to use the library as their source of internet access than families that make $75,000 a year. 73% of libraries are the only source of free internet access for the community. If you factor in rural areas, that figure rises to 82%. When I interviewed Gail Harris, who is the volunteer coordinator, and John, they don't have hard numbers, but they both said there's been a significant increase here in Rochester of people using the internet, because when you're in trouble financially, one of the first things that you'll cut is going to be your home internet access. So now that we've looked at some of the people that are affected, what can we do to help with these upcoming cuts and help lessen them? Well, we have to increase the other. The other is all of us in this room, that 1%. And one of the ways we could do that, obviously, is through monetary donations. You know, even small amounts are greatly appreciated by the library. The other big thing we could do is the Friends Bookstore, and the Friends Bookstore is just awesome. They have, according to their 2008 activities report, they added $127,000 worth of books to the library's official collection. On top of that, they raised $45,000 cash in store sales from selling the books that people donate. And they accept all kinds of donations. They accept children's books, fiction, non-fiction, CDs, old tape cassettes, if some of you still have them laying around, videos, especially VHS, is actually in high demand, and surprisingly, textbooks. Used textbooks are hard to get rid of, and they have found a way to make money selling them on the internet, and back to a lot of the publishing companies want the books back. So all of us have a couple of used textbooks, I'm sure, laying around that we're never going to crack open again. So that would be a good way to get, to kind of help the library. And volunteer. According to Gail Harris with my interview, volunteers do everything in the library, and they equal up to 8.5 staff members. As I wait for this webpage to load, I myself and a Adopt a Shelf volunteer, and it's really a big need that the library has. They have issues with keeping things neat and tidy. So what happens is I go in and I just pick a shelf and tidy it up and start alphabetizing and keeping everything in a proper order. And I can do it anytime the library is open, and I can donate from 15 minutes to 4 hours. It's incredibly flexible. And if we look at their website, you'll see not everyone is a people person. If you're just into books or computers, there's something for you to do. You can just click on each category here, and that'll give you listings of things to do. And it doesn't have to be a weekly commitment. It could even be just a one-time special project. And finally, it's very important that those of us that live in the city of Rochester contact the city council. They are the ones that are going to determine how great the cuts are for the library. They need to know the importance of the library. John Hunsiker, the communications director, used to be city council president, and from what he said, they do pay attention to us. So what happens if, say, we don't step up? Or what are some of the impacts that are going to be with these cuts? If the city council does not hear from us as citizens and they give the library a bigger share of the cuts, according to John Hunsiker, the results will be catastrophic. Those are his exact words. That's why they're quotes. As it is, as of right now, before any cuts have been announced, they are decreasing their purchasing budget by 50%, and they might have to go up to 75%. And I'd really like everyone in this room to think about that. Our library is going to have to decrease the amount of books they buy by 75% compared to this year. That is a crazy figure. Cuts are inevitable. We need to keep that in mind. I really want everyone to bring that home today, that this isn't like a maybe, this is happening. The residents of the Hamline Midway neighborhood in St. Paul, they love their library. It was a major part of their community. That library was open for 100 years. It is now being closed as of December of 2009, as documented in the Hamline article, because of the cuts to LGA.